In today's podcast, I would like to talk about a subject that is very near and dear to me and clean up with a statement I hear so many times from people who create awareness of narcissistic abuse or have been involved with a narcissist, saying that narcissists are very good and talented actors. As a professional actress myself with more than a decade of experience in film and television, I cannot confirm this. I know in the end it's probably just semantics here, whatever you want to call them, but I personally refrain from making this statement. And this is not some kind of an ego response of mine or something. It doesn't offend me when other people call them actors, but I know what it actually takes to be an actor. And these are traits and skills that most average narcissists don't have or aren't capable of developing even. If any, it's the complete and extreme opposite actually of what it takes to be an actor. Narcissists live by the motto of fake it till you make it, and you can often see or even feel this when they are quote-unquote acting, whether that's in real life or in the performing arts. And that's why I think that con artist, pretender, or performer may be a better term to describe these manipulators. They pretend for impression management because otherwise they would lose their place in society and not be able to survive. But once you've become familiar with the red flags of a covert narcissist, it's actually very easy to spot them. So how good is their act really if we can make them out so easily? While there are certainly many professional and even talented actors out there who are narcissists, not every narcissist is an actor. Just as not every actor is inherently narcissistic, as some people like to think. As usual, exceptions always prove the rule. It's a craft that requires a lot of hard work and dedication, and if a person isn't truly passionate about it, they will most likely quit at some point. So what does it take to be a real actor? Here are 10 points. First of all, you need to be grounded and connected to yourself. Narcissists are so disconnected from their true self and disordered in their personality. As the name narcissistic personality disorder suggests, they can't be authentic. They tend to mirror or impersonate others. While actors wear a mask and do impersonate or embody their characters, they need to also internalize and bring their own unique self and authenticity to every role. Otherwise, they'd just be what we call indicating or spitting out words without any meaning. So in order to be a successful actor, it is crucial to self-reflect and truly get to know oneself. It also has a lot to do with having control over your instrument, which consists of your mind, body, and soul. You as a whole and fully rounded human being, so to speak. And speaking of being authentic and connected to oneself, this also means you need to be vulnerable as an actor. Open, raw, and honest. I remember my own struggles when I began my journey as an actress and didn't allow myself to be vulnerable. At the time, I still had a lot of unresolved trauma in me that inhibited me to use my full potential. Today, I have no problems with that. I even allow myself to cry in front of others. And I only gain total access to my vulnerability through healing. Narcissists, on the other hand, are known for their shallow or faked emotions and crocodile tears. And there's a misconception out there that actors should take advantage of their past trauma to be more authentic. But there's too much of a risk of re-traumatizing yourself if you do this. Lee Strasberg's sense memory, which is a technique in method acting for which you recall specific sensory experiences from your past memory, is truly something else. Or as one of my former acting teachers at Strasberg's used to say as he answered one of my classmates' question with regard to using our traumatic experiences, and I quote, "Heal that shit." At this point, I would also like to clean up with a misconception out there that method acting is something dangerous. It's truly not. Also, there's nothing narcissistic about it. However, many have dragged method acting through the mud due to some actors' self-serving, egocentrical, and dangerous approach to acting. When you hear stories of Heath Ledger locking himself up in a hotel room to drive himself to insanity to become the Joker, Adrien Brody getting rid of all of his belongings and becoming homeless to play the pianist, or actors who stay in character 24/7, pissing off everyone around them, that's not method acting. It's selfish, self-absorbed, and often narcissistic madness. And people in the industry stop working with these types of actors. Quite often they are labeled difficult. Unfortunately, the media and many who are not familiar with the origins of method acting give this approach to acting the same name. Even the father of method acting, Konstantin Stanislavski, said that doing harmful things to yourself isn't the solution to achieve authenticity. For instance, he locked himself into a dark cellar in the hope it would help him to know what claustrophobia feels like. But it didn't work for his character. I studied method acting at both prestigious schools, Lee Strasberg's and Stella Adler's in Los Angeles and New York City. Nobody ever told us to use our past trauma or to re-traumatize and abuse or expose ourselves to dangerous situations. They strictly advise against it. It's sad they even have to bring it up due to all the misconceptions and mislabeling out there. If certain actors think they have to go this far, they are simply lacking imagination, in my opinion. Now, there's nothing wrong about learning new skills relating to a role you play. For instance, if your character rides a motorcycle, you'd certainly be expected to know or learn how to ride a motorcycle. But this has nothing to do with crucial life changes that may end up hurting you. Next, not only do you need to be able to connect with your own inner authentic self, but also with others. Otherwise, there'd be no palpable chemistry between two scene partners. And narcissists are known for their superficial relationships with others. When I didn't allow myself to be vulnerable, I could barely make eye contact with other people, which is something that I've slowly learned through acting as well. By the way, this is why I recommend survivors to take an acting class, even if you do not want to pursue a professional career as an actor. It truly opens doors to yourself that had been locked for way too long and can support your healing journey. You also start developing a genuine curiosity about other people. And this is what narcissists don't have. They are too self-absorbed and usually only ask questions in an effort to exploit others, not truly to get to know or understand another person. You need to be a good listener, show respect, and not make it all about yourself. It's a matter of mutual understanding and empathy, really. Which leads me to my next point. You need to have a healthy dose of empathy and emotional intelligence as an actor to understand and be able to relate to the characters, their motivations, struggles, conflicts, obstacles, relationships, and other material you will find in a story. One important rule for actors is to never judge their character or the circumstances surrounding them in a script. Narcissists lack empathy. They are always biased and opinionated, and they can be very critical when they want things their way, while everyone is free and expected to deliver their input, which makes the creative process so interesting. It's not unusual that narcissists want their character to be more front and center or heroic than intended, for obvious reasons. They don't want to play themselves. They don't understand they have to serve the play and not themselves. Next, you need to have a lot of creativity and imagination. You will most likely notice a different kind of depth in a conversation with a person who has a good amount of imagination versus someone who does not. They usually have excellent problem-solving skills to reflect on situations from all kinds of angles. Narcissists tend to use their imagination when they future-fake their victims, or even themselves, and have their self-centered delusions tell them they are going to be popular and famous one day. If narcissists had better creativity, imagination, and problem-solving skills, they would be much better at long-term thinking and making wiser decisions in life. And the garden variety narcissist is often very boring and uncreative. They usually live for the moment, day to day, and on pure survival. And as an actor, you also need to be a team player. Working on a movie or a play is a collaborative effort between cast and crew, or even within an ensemble of actors, and we appreciate each other's contribution and talent. I think that goes without saying in almost every type of work. Narcissists, however, have a tendency to burn a lot of bridges. Yes, on the surface, they seem to be able to network with ease and have a lot of connections, but quite often, they are not able to maintain these relationships in the long run. They like kissing up to people, and sooner or later, everyone sees through this charade. In a team, you need to be able to communicate clearly and professionally, which isn't every narcissist's strong suit, especially if they are on the malignant or antisocial spectrum. They are the ones who will verbally abuse the people around them, and sadly, I've been a witness and even a target of that many times. Actors need to be able to take directions from other people, and not just make it their way or the highway. I've seen actors before who were given directions and still decided to do their own thing, delivering exactly the same take after take. Another thing narcissists like doing is to upstage other people. I will link another podcast that speaks specifically about that in the description below. In terms of acting, upstaging means to command the space and compete for attention with their co-stars to remain in the spotlight. Again, they have a tendency to serve themselves and not the story. For instance, you will see them manipulating their co-stars when they are just mumbling their lines of dialogue behind the camera instead of delivering the same performance as if they were on screen. It's giving the actor who is on camera at the time almost nothing to naturally respond to. It's sheerly unprofessional and disrespectful. That's why I love what they said about Jack Nicholson's performance in the movie A Few Good Men. You would think he was such a big actor, he probably just took it easy when he was off camera. No, he always delivered the entire authentic performance every single time, giving his co-stars exactly what they needed. And that ultimately translated into a wonderful movie with consistent energy. Selfish or even narcissistic actors who don't do this and don't regard or respect their co-stars and their needs to deliver a great performance as well, they just don't bother because the spotlight isn't on them. And sadly, we often have this false notion that these major celebrities like Jack Nicholson, Robert De Niro, or Al Pacino, for example, are so high up on the food chain, they seem so untouchable, they must be narcissistic divas or a pain to work with. But from my personal experience, I can tell you that's very far from the truth. The reason these people have been around for so long is because others love working with them. It's their talent, passion, dedication, and most of all, professionalism that got them this far. I was fortunate to work with a lot of people and was surprised to learn that those I thought would become difficult turned out to be the sweetest and most professional actors I've ever worked with. But there's also something true about never meet your idols. And those who were narcissistic or literally abused me or any of my coworkers aren't around much anymore. These days, it's not tolerated as much as it used to in the past. Times have changed in Hollywood, especially since the Me Too movement in 2017, and the news spread very fast on the internet as well. Number 6, role models. From my personal experience, narcissists don't have any role models or can't answer the question whether they have one. I said in a previous podcast that they like to quote and associate themselves with celebrities, but they aren't their role models. Role models are there to inspire you to pave your own path. But narcissists tend to mirror other people or try to emulate them entirely in the hope they become just as successful and famous. They are the ones who want to be adored. It would be beneath them to adore others in the same way. Next, professional actors need to keep training and educating themselves to hone their craft. This includes attending acting schools or training courses, collaborating with other people, attending plays or watching movies, studying other actors while doing so, and so much more. I know plenty of narcissists in our industry, my own ex-partner included, who said acting courses wouldn't be necessary. They were indeed so full of themselves, they thought just showing up on a movie set or kissing up to a producer would give them their big break one day. It's totally delusional. And then they get envious and angry at the people who are working actors, ignoring to acknowledge how much time, energy, and money they have invested in their career. Not to forget blood, sweat, and tears, quite literally even. Think of the iceberg model, where all the hard work and excruciating experiences are hidden underneath the surface. Most actors have hundreds of auditions behind them just to book one single role. That's a reality for most. And considering all of this, an acting career is very expensive. I will give you the financial breakdown. If you want to start and maintain an acting career, you first have to pay for training. Then you need a resume and headshots that always have to be up to date and reflect your current look and experience. And you want to add a website maybe. Some actors have a private coach they see regularly. Nowadays, you also need your own studio equipment to record yourself at home, because a lot of auditions have shifted to self-taping since the COVID pandemic. Or you need the money to pay for transportation to get to the casting director's office. You need to take care of your physical appearance, such as your hair, makeup, wardrobe, or staying fit and go to the gym. You need to pay for the online platforms on which you get submitted to auditions. You need to pay for your union dues and private health insurance. And of course, once you book a job, you pay 10 to 15% of your income to your agent or manager. And let's not forget tax season every year. A huge part of the work consists of business and marketing. Acting in itself is often just a very small portion of it. You need to be smart with your investments because, as you can see, there's not much left at the end of the day. And the average narcissist is not a good investor. I've said this many times before. They have terrible spending habits and are often too broke to achieve anything. That's what they need their victims for, to financially support them. They are the ones who come with a ton of excuses as to why things aren't playing out as expected. And it's usually somebody else's fault. Or they will sugarcoat their reality because it's too embarrassing. If an actor keeps on complaining about their agent or manager, for instance, it's usually a huge red flag to me. You see, it's not just art. Especially when you're in the movie industry. That's just some romantic nonsense people like to put out there. It's a die-hard business where time is money. A lot of money. If an actor is having a bad day or shows up unprepared and requires too many takes, that's not good. especially if their narcissism shows and they insist on having one more take after another while delivering the same dull performance every time, or they create a lot of drama for no reason. Anyways, I digress. Narcissists don't have the financial means, stamina, and patience to manage all of this, which is my next point. Most acting careers start out as a very long and exhausting marathon. It's definitely not a sprint. Yes, every now and then you see this one kid being discovered in the streets and blow up overnight, but this happens few and far between. I mean, go and check out your favorite actors' filmographies on IMDb, for instance, and scroll to the very beginning of their career. You will notice that most of them started with very small parts, some of them even uncredited, which means they were either too small of a part, merely an extra in the background, or sometimes even cut out entirely. And my last point why narcissists aren't making good actors, and this is probably the most obvious, which is why I kept it for last. If there's one thing narcissists hate, then it's being rejected. And as an actor, you will be dealing with a lot of rejection. Like I said before, you can have 100 auditions before you book your first role. Personally, I don't like the term rejection. To me, feeling rejected implies that someone felt somehow entitled to getting something. But as I said in a previous podcast, I don't consider anything a rejection. I see auditioning in the same way as Al Pacino once said. It's an opportunity to act. And most actors I know are humble and grateful for every opportunity and not entitled. I also don't think of others as competition. Everyone is unique in their own ways. Just do your own thing to the best of your ability. It will get you further in life and will also be less stressful. This is how the law of attraction will end up working in your favor as well. A lot of narcissists who have failed in their acting career become teachers. My very first acting teacher was a textbook narcissist. He had a very troubled past and was still an asshole and misogynist who wouldn't learn from his mistakes. They like becoming mentors because that way they can feel powerful and have control over new talents. And sadly, I've seen it way too often that they became envious of their young students and manipulated them by using their insecurities against them. Keep that in mind should you decide to sign up for a class at some point. Like I said before, I do recommend taking an acting class as a survivor to learn more about yourself and support your healing journey, as long as you get involved with the right coaches. Okay, these were 10 reasons why narcissists aren't making good actors. They're disconnected from themselves and others. They lack empathy, imagination, and creativity. They aren't team players. They don't submit to a role model, neglect consistent self-improvement, don't have the financial means and patience to maintain a career in the long run, and they cannot deal with rejection. Thank you very much for listening. Stay safe and have a great day.